And I don't think I need to spend a lot of time talking about the importance that lead gen's taken in the overall industry right now. Lead gen is everything for advertisers and marketers, and whether you're a media company that's generating leads on their behalf, or whether you're a data company that's providing a prospecting database or other type of lead insight to marketers, we're all involved with leads. And they've taken on a very different shape over the last few years. There's a lot in flux, I think it's fair to say, in terms of where things are heading and how people are looking at things. So we've put together a panel of people who have very, I think, different perspectives on the whole business, which makes it interesting. We have Josh Camrie from Ekho, who's got some really intriguing technology that I think you're going to be interested to hear about. James Karklins, who's with SourceMedia, which is one of the bigger media companies out there, is very deeply involved with lead generation programs right now. And Turk with Madison Logic, which is doing some really, really exciting stuff about bringing together some of this information about what users are, what their intentions might be, and helping to build out even stronger, more effective lead gen programs, along with other applications, but we're going to focus on lead gens today. So what we really like to do is just to push out a little bit and focus on sort of the bleeding edge of lead generation, where things are going. I'm always interested on your behalf to get an understanding of what it is that the buyers, the advertisers and marketers are looking for, what they think is important, how they see value these days, what their demands and their needs are. So there's a lot of different ways to go about this, but why don't we kick off? If a brief summary of your business and your offerings so that we can give everyone a little context, and we'll start and move across, and then we'll dive in.
Sure. So I'm Vin with Madison Logic. And Madison Logic is the largest aggregator of B2B intent data, and we've done that by building a data co-op where publishers contribute their data, and then everyone benefits by being able to leverage all the data contributed. So we're seeing over about 1 billion interactions every month, and that fuels lead generation, display advertising, marketing automation, and a variety of other marketing technology platforms.
Great. Hi, I'm James Karklins. I'm the Executive Director of Lead Generation at SourceMedia. SourceMedia, we're a B2B media company. Our core markets are primarily healthcare, financial services, and technology. I oversee our demand generation group as well as our audience development. Our demand generation has actually grown significantly in the last 12 months. We've managed to build that business into a really strong business, and it's grown 50% within the last 12 months. And demand generation now accounts for about 8 to 9% of our overall revenue, and in some cases we're seeing that at 2/3 of our digital revenue in some particular groups as well.
Well, good afternoon. Happy Veterans Day. My name is Josh Camrie. I'm one of the co-founders, and I run product and marketing at Ekho. We are a late-stage startup out of Northern California, just north of San Francisco. We're predominantly focused on customer acquisition through social data, and we do a lot of work with integrating social data and then ranking, scoring, and distributing that information out to various clients for activation. We see ourselves as an augmentation to some of the things that Vin is doing, and providing a lot of input really to that kind of co-op type environment. We're really seeing all this data is such a pool of opportunity for everyone, and so just trying to help people leverage that.
Yep. And who would your clients be? Would it be end users or end marketer advertisers, or would it be intermediaries?
I like to say, does your company need leads? We've been working with quite a few publishers. We've been working in hospitality. We've been working in e-commerce. So it's really run the gamut for us because of the kind of poignancy of the social consumer in this whole ecosystem.
That's interesting. And would it be fair to say that you really offer sort of an end-to-end platform? I mean, you're taking it from the...
Absolutely. For publishers, we handle all the lead generation, end-to-end invoicing, billing, setting up campaigns, target audiences, filtering, validation, verification, and delivery of the leads back into CRM, marketing automation, or any platform that they like.
Oh, interesting. And James, you're in the sort of the do-it-yourself category. I guess you're generating your own leads for your own customers.
Yeah.
But I guess you're using outside tools and services as well.
We are. We use Marketo as our marketing automation platform at SourceMedia. We probably implemented that now over 15 months ago now at SourceMedia. And that's the platform that we're using to nurture our leads for our clients, score our leads, and add on supplemental services.
That's, you're putting it on top. One of the things that I see with a lot of publishers now, and it's taken a surprisingly long time, but a new emphasis on lead scoring. So they're not just giving a name back to an advertiser or marketer, but saying, we think this one's better for some reason than some of the others. But at the same time, I hear about a lot of advertisers doing their own lead scoring. And I'm wondering, do those two things collide, or do advertisers no longer put a lot of value on what the publisher's saying, or do they value those systems more? Just curious about market
Yeah,
perspective.
I think oftentimes lead scoring boils down to how many pieces of content did they engage with of my content.
Yep.
So if they downloaded one white paper and then signed up for one webcast from you, you score that differently, you put them in a different nurture track. And what we're starting to really focus on is how many pieces of content did they download that's relevant to your business that wasn't actually yours? How many pieces of content did they download from your competitors? Or what are they reading about that's relevant kind of in that same circle? Or what individuals from the same organization are downloading relevant content that you don't even know about, but are in that buying process? So we try to score leads in a variety of manners. One, if they want it, based on how many pieces of content they downloaded from their content, that's one thing. Or just how much other information we can contribute to help their whole buying process.
And look, lead gen, it's not a new concept.
Right.
I think it used to be you would rent a direct mail list, and that would be considered lead gen. What we're seeing is that the definition is really changing. It's now demand gen, and you're fueling the sales pipeline of your clients. And I think as publishers, we're accountable for those leads that we generate for our clients. Although our clients have their own marketing automation systems, it's up to us to make sure that we're delivering qualified sales opportunities for our clients. Because if we don't do that, then they're not going to come back, they're not going to renew their programs with us. So we add lead scoring as more of a value added to our base offering at SourceMedia. We do over 250 or so web seminars a year for our clients. And we don't charge additionally for lead scoring, although that's the hope that we can get there and charge incrementally for lead scoring. It's part of our base offering. And we used to get clients would say to us, hey, we got 1,000 leads from this web seminar, we don't know what to do with them. And that was a very common question. And now that we're scoring those leads, prioritising them, as Vin said, as publishers, that what we have access to is a really rich level of content from our editorial side. Passing that level of detail back to our advertisers, I think, is really, really critical, and it's an opportunity for publishers to do that if you're not doing it already, to look at marketing automation platforms that can actually enable you to do that. So,
I think to your point, Russell, you ask, is it a collision? And I think, it's efficacy, right? So one scoring is essentially going to win out over another. Our focus at Ekho is on recency, obviously, just based on the flow of social data and what people are talking about. So where, Vin might be looking at, how many pieces of content were downloaded, we'd be looking at not just kind of what was downloaded, but what are people saying, how are they interacting, what are the engagement steps they're taking, and we actually score people based on kind of 4 dimensions of interest, impact, opinion, and emotion. And those things are customizable, so you can determine if you're looking for the greatest reach, you might want the most impactful group of people, which may end up being, quite frankly, a lot of publishers. If you're looking for the most interested people, for instance, for an e-commerce type play, then you really might be interested in people with high interest and emotion in a particular area because they're very engaged at this particular moment. So we place a premium on recency.
And do you wrap that up into a single score? Imagine the typical advertising say, what do I do with this emotion category here?
It's called Ekho score.
Okay.
My short pitch.
Yeah, I think for us too, it's also getting very collaborative with the client. Every client is different. There's not a one-size-fits-all model. So we work with every client as they onboard with a lead generation program. We ask them to tell us their assessment criteria, who they're trying to target, who they're trying to reach. We look at the relevant content on our sites and we layer that on top as well. Actually, we had a client recently who had a conference in California, in San Diego. They're I won't name the client, but they're a very big technology, SAS, software as a service client in analytics. And we generated 100 leads for them for that conference. And we scored those leads based off if they had an American Banker paid subscription, for instance, which is our flagship brand at SourceMedia, if they had attended one of our conferences, what content they were engaging on our site. So I think as publishers, it's really up to us to unlock all of that data. And it used to be, and it still is, that content is king, but I think data is also equally king.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the flexibility of being able to understand that, for this particular opportunity or engagement, one thing may be more relevant than another, and the ability to tune, if American Banker is very indicative of the buyer for this particular event, then that's ideal, but it may not be one size fits all as you start to go across your portfolio.
Yep.
But as you talk, I was thinking to myself, are these individual campaigns all hand-tooled and everyone's got their own even definition of what a lead is, and then you have different scoring criteria based on the program, and how do you manage it all?
Yeah, no, look, it's a great question. I think every client is different and every client has their own assessment criteria. The automation and the tools and the systems we now have at SourceMedia makes it a lot easier to do that than what it did even a year ago, 2 years ago. I think what we found 2 years ago is that our clients had very sophisticated technologies, they had very sophisticated tools, and we had to step up our game. We had to invest in new technology, new systems to be able to automate those processes. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult for us to be able to do that. So.
Interesting. Yeah. But, which goes to one of the bigger questions I have, and I just love your sort of notes from the field on this. But how sophisticated are advertisers these days? And one of the things that nags at me in particular with lead gen is I hear we want these super specific, highly qualified leads. We want the absolute best quality they are. And by the way, if you can't give me 500 a week, I'm not interested. So I mean, this quality versus quantity thing, which makes me suspicious that maybe they're not using them quite as well as they should be.
Yeah, we've tried to arm our sales team to go out and talk about the committee that's involved in a buying process. It's not just the director or the CFO or someone that writes the final check that goes along into what software or what product should we buy. It's researchers, influencers, all these other people involved, and usually that ends up widening the strike zone of who they'll accept as a lead, which means lead volumes go up, and in often cases, cost per lead to them can go down.
I think they are getting more and more sophisticated. We now at SourceMedia have moved from more of a traditional sponsorship model to a cost per lead or a CPL model for all of our clients. And we're finding that based off adding filter assessments like title or industry or demographics and other criteria that we can incrementally charge more for those leads. But I think also the clients, it used to be that they would get a lead gen report for us in an Excel spreadsheet with a list of all their leads. Right. Once a month, and then it would be every 2 weeks, then it would be weekly, and we would send these reports on a Friday, no later than 12 noon, and send that as an Excel spreadsheet. and now I think those days are gone. Basically, you have to be delivering leads far frequently. You have to be delivering leads in real time. Clients are requesting us to have their leads daily and also automated into their own CRM platforms and portals as well.
The fact that they can't possibly do anything with them in real time is that's another question. Relevant at the moment, but maybe we're gearing up for that point in time when that will happen. Because obviously we're very focused on the real-time opportunity, and also what I've been calling the law of small numbers, right? Is the opportunity to get 10 people who 8 of them are going to convert, as opposed to get 100 people who one might convert. Right. So if we can provide this pre-targeting opportunity, this opportunity for someone who says, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going mountain biking in Marin County, California. now we know, so much about that person in terms of the entire potential ecosystem of offers we could provide to that person, and really having a stable or a warehouse of advertisers prepared to take that on at any given moment is kind of the next evolution for us.
That's kind of interesting. Is there any feedback loop with advertisers, and should there be, other than complaints? I mean, did you hear how well your leads do? Do you get any kind of...
We try to request pipeline and opportunities created from our leads. Oftentimes advertisers don't want to disclose that, but the ones that do are usually very happy to, because they see big multi-million-dollar deals come in, and that obviously helps with renewals. But it's kind of like pulling teeth sometimes. They think it's very proprietary, and oftentimes they don't want to share it, but we ask when we can.
Yeah, going to 2015, we're investing in systems and platforms that will allow us to do exactly that, have a feedback loop with our clients, whereby they can tell us, well, which leads actually converted at the end of the day, what became qualified sales opportunities. We do request that on an ad hoc basis, but as Vin said, it's hard to pull that teeth and get that information from every single client, and not every client is willing to give that information as well.
It's really a shame when they're not willing to do it, because it impedes the communication process, right? If you're able to provide a feedback loop, we're able to do better at what we do. If you're not, then
it fine-tunes
good luck with the leads we gave you.
Yep. But I'm always amazed too that some of the biggest technology companies that they're not even following up with some of these leads. We do surveys with our subscribers that attended a web seminar, and we ask them, did you receive a telephone call from a sales rep from the client? And in some cases, it's pretty staggering that these clients are generating mass volume of leads, but they're not necessarily following up. And I think as publishers too, that represents an opportunity for us to get in there and do more lead nurturing and follow-up processes too.
That's interesting. I've heard stories too of publishers having advertisers sort of cherry pick the leads they get and say, I like this one, I don't like this one, I'll pay you for this one, I won't pay you for that one. Is that real, or is that just apocryphal?
No, we don't allow it. I mean, they ask about it, but we just flat out don't allow it. And they'll provide an exclusion list of competitors or companies that they don't want leads from, or vice versa, companies that they only want leads from, target account programs. But outside of them just sending leads back without any real rationale, we don't allow it.
Actually, we could probably learn from that approach, Vin. I think we're all too accommodating at SourceMedia with our clients. But I think more as we've moved towards a cost per lead model with our lead gen programs, that the clients are evaluating every single lead, and they're really picky. That the title has to be accurate. We have our own internal assessment criteria now at SourceMedia, where we don't send leads to a client if they have a 1-800 number, for instance. If they don't have a direct dial telephone number, we won't send that lead onto the client. If they have a personal email address, we don't send that lead onto the client as well, because we know that they're not as qualified sales opportunity for the client. We also bump up our leads against a profanity list or a swear word list. There's also too many Justin Biebers that I find that are registering on our registration pages, and we have to ensure that we're not sending those Justin Bieber type leads onto our clients, because if they're paying on a CPL program, they don't want to see those leads, and it really puts at jeopardy all of those other leads as well.
Yeah. So I certainly understand the Justin Bieber, but as far as I know, people who swear still buy things.
I swear they do. I've heard too that there's on top of all these typical targeting criteria, now you're sometimes seeing more of call it an account-based type approach, where they'll say, not only do I want this job title and this and that, but I also want only global 200 companies or something like that. Is that going on?
We've seen a surge in that this past year, and we expect it to continue next year. And at first, it was very difficult for us to kind of wrap our heads around how do we even make this program work. And we had to just kind of productize it, where we could simply import the list of all the companies with the domains that they're looking for and kind of sync that with all the publishers that are using our platform. So anytime we see someone based on an IP or a cookie or any type of registration data, we can either sort them down the right path of here's an offer that you would qualify for and that you're interested in based on all your intent data, or just not even show that to them.
Yeah, we've also seen a surge in that. And I think that's how B2B advertisers, that's how they're buying media today. It's account-based. These are programs that are ultimately, they're harder for us to fulfill on, but we're also charging more for these types of CPL deals that we're selling. And we find that if a client gives us an account list of say 100 or 200 companies that are their sweet spot, that's their target audience, we can charge an extra 45% upwards there on a cost per lead basis, so we can actually get more value and charge a premium for that.
I think we're just a lot more agnostic because I think we're a little less focused on the B2B, B2C, determination. We're looking more at the people than the companies, so we haven't seen quite as much of that. But we're obviously, as we kind of work with other groups and other companies, we're having to refine the way our leads are segmented.
Interesting. I know there's no one number, but could you give me a sense, maybe in ranges, of what leads go for these days?
I think they start usually around $30, maybe $25, depending on volume, and depending on the complexity and the targeting, they can scale upwards of $150, $250 per lead. If they want any band qualification or more engagement associated with that lead, or any kind of nurturing follow-up.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that too, Vin. I think we're seeing more clients ask for band qualification, which is that budget. Do they have a budget? Do they have authority? What's their need? What's their time frame to purchase? And we do find we can charge additional 45% for that as a benchmark. Our leads go for very similar, anywhere between $30 a lead up to $130, $150 a lead. Depends entirely on the vertical. I think in our technology space, our technology vertical, we're probably seeing that at about $40 to $45 cost per lead. In our banking and financial services, we see a premium on that. We're seeing those leads go for $80, $90 on average. Healthcare, we're probably seeing that around about $50 to $60 per lead. So yes, we are seeing a premium on that.
Nice.
Yeah, we're well aligned with that pricing. Although again, we're looking at recency. So if I'm giving you leads that are less than 12 hours old, then that's when you're in the $100, $150 range.
Okay.
If you want to take the ones that are a little they're the day old bagels.
What's interesting about BAMP qualification is that the moment you identify a single lead at an organization that fits all the criteria, you can start building profiles about that organization, identify other people, the same office location, that are probably part of that buying process, and apply similar scoring and try to target them as well. So you end up starting with this very narrow target of who you're trying to reach, who has the budget and the authority and the need, and then it just continually grows, and it's like a snowball effect over time, and their campaign becomes more effective over time, and your cost to generate those leads go down.
Right, interesting. Well, that leads into another great question, which is, what type of information do you give back as part of the lead? Are you overlaying data or using your own from third party? And how much do advertisers really want? Do they just want the name, phone number, don't tell me the rest? Or is it, I want to know as much as humanly possible about it?
I think in the basic sense, we provide that initial demographic data, what they've downloaded, when they downloaded it, and then what we try to do is integrate our systems together. Usually they have a Marketo or Eloqua, where we'll continually drip in new data about either the individual as a hashed email address, or about the organization that they want to continually to nurture. So you're not just buying the lead, you're buying a continual feed of data into their marketing automation, because after a certain period of time, that individual is not going to be opening your email or picking up your phone calls, and either they go dormant and you waste the money on that lead,
right,
or you learn about what they're now in the market for, and their buying process changes, and they're in the market for different products. So you have to stay on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we make sure we pass on all the demographic information to the client, as well as we'll layer on top of the lead extra information that we can append to that record, whether it's the size of the company, employees, it might be assets in our banking group that we can enrich that data. Every client is different. Some clients will only ask for the first name, last name, company name, and telephone number. That's all they need to qualify a lead for their systems. Other clients will ask 15 questions on the registration form, and that obviously hurts the conversion rates. It makes it more difficult to fulfill on that particular program. But we will also layer on top of our leveraging our audience database and layering on top of our content that we track a vapor trail on every one of our websites using our marketing automation platform, using Marketo, so we can actually track every single article that they've viewed, within a 60-day period. So we're passing that information on to the client as well.
Subsequent to the handling.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
I would say that, because we're dealing predominantly in social data, we're providing social IDs. We're able to do some reverse appends from emails to that, but then we're also providing kind of a whole host of social attributes, including, I mentioned this kind of ecosystem of a particular person, other kind of topic areas and areas of focus and intent to purchase ideas around that particular person. And so we're really helping our clients build a social database that is starting to integrate, and obviously that key point is being able to integrate that social data with the CRM data, with these other forms of data to start to draw, even if it's not one-to-one matching, to be able to understand the personas and to be able to understand the communities who are your customers, right? So it really gives you the opportunity to start building communities within your current CRM.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, we put all this together. We've got that omni-channel dream everyone talks about.
Last night talking.
We think that's where 2015 is heading. These marketers being able to not just take the data and shove it in their system, but to really put it to use and have that feedback loop to see what's effective, what's not, where can I increase spend, what I need to cut out very quickly.
I'd also be curious, again, thinking about pushing forward a little bit, what you're seeing and hearing about predictive leads. What are they in your perspective? Are they really taking hold out there, or is that something you can get a premium for, and maybe even, what's some of the technology behind it?
We do quite a bit of work around predictive and bringing people in and understanding, within a larger group, how is that group sub-segmented by their propensity for a particular, interest category, or we do some pretty advanced geo-targeting around natural language processing that helps us identify, sub-segments in specific geographic areas. So, for instance, for a large insurance carrier who's one of our clients, they have thousands of reps all around the country, and they need, geo-based leads in those particular areas. So we're able to provide, kind of that level of geo with predictive to allow them to understand, what their best insight and upsell opportunities are.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think for us as a publisher, we can provide the predictive intent to buy based off the past. So what the subscribers are viewing on our various websites, that can help to indicate if they're willing to buy or not. We are seeing clients use services. I think Lattice Engines is one that comes up quite a bit as well. The social intent, we're seeing more clients like an Ekho, for instance, going down that approach. But we're not necessarily doing that ourselves, but are seeing that there certainly is an interest in that. And as we all spoke about the other night, that's a big trend for next year, I think.
So we have partnerships with all the major predictive lead scoring and prescriptive lead scoring platforms, where we just pump all of our intent data and they put it into their data scientists' hands and do what they might. And then we use that data to just make our ads more relevant on all of our publisher sites. So if we've seen you've downloaded this and your coworkers download this, we just use that to generate higher CPM for publishers and get more leads generated for advertisers. But in terms of giving advertisers kind of predictive tools, we don't really operate in that space.
Okay. And you mentioned predictive and prescriptive. How would you differentiate those?
I think predictive looks at your first-party data, your CRM data, the data that you've acquired from outside, your leads, and kind of builds a model out of that. And then prescriptive looks at, based on this information that we know, what are some new approaches, whether it's lookalike modeling or new avenues that we can buy media and apply it back into the initial data set to just make everything more efficient.
Interesting. Josh, you had mentioned earlier about backing social IDs into email addresses. How successful are you with that? That sounds pretty challenging.
Yeah, anywhere from about 15 to 30%.
That's pretty good.
I mean, and that's at the kind of seed level. Things obviously grow and evolve from there, but that's generally where. And I think you said last night you were seeing about the same type of thing. It's interesting. We had a conversation again last night about this conversation where we started talking about direct mail, And your question about, what's next, it's interesting to talk about direct mail because, everyone kind of thinks, well, that's over, that's done. And I think one of the things that this confluence of lead gen, this confluence of data aggregation in all these different areas, the understanding of a social customer and their recency, is really an opportunity to empower your omni-channel marketing efforts. Everyone says omni-channel,
Right.
But yet they're still just doing channel. And I think understanding where these people are, what types of things they're downloading, where they can be reached, where's their best point of conversion, whether it's an actual physical location or a device, this is the type of information that as a group that we're really able to start providing. And I think it's super powerful to understand that you can send a direct mail piece that's driving someone, to a landing page, that's driving someone to convert via their mobile device at a particular location. Can start on iBeacon and kind of the in-store type lead generation that's coming down the road. But I think that this is where the real power is.
Yeah, that is kind of remarkable when you start to think about how far
or
out
scary. One of the
do any of you deal with, and just off the top of my head question, but interesting to me, is the notion of maybe a serial sales lead? Do you track or know or care whether a person becomes a sales lead 6 times for different programs in 6 months, or is it kind of irrelevant? It's not quite the same as a multi-buyer, but maybe it's the anti-multi-buyer.
Yeah, we find that a lead that registers for one of our web seminars or downloads a white paper or an ebook, that if we're targeting those people, they're more likely to register again, or they're more likely to download another asset. We find that increases up to 12 times by targeting that most recent audience. So we're not ever, it used to be that if a client would come to us and say, hey, we want to generate 100 leads in this particular vertical, well, we would send out an email to 50,000 people. We don't do that anymore. It's all about behavioural targeting, and we'll look at the content consumption on our sites, and we'll now send that email to 500 people, and that's the most engaged list of leads that we will send that to. But look, in answer to your question, I think that it's those that show an interest to do something once that they're going to do that again. We're not actively getting that feedback loop from our clients to see what is converting and what becomes a sales lead for the clients, but that certainly is more of an opportunity for us, I think.
If someone's in the market to buy a product, depending on where they are in that stage, they're probably involving 5 or more vendors for RFPs and evaluation. So if they're out there requesting content, we're going to identify that and try to get other vendors that offer similar type of products, their research in that same individual's hand. But eventually you find the returns diminish over time because they've either been too saturated or they've moved on to the next product that they're in market for.
Interesting. And Josh, how cutting edge is the whole idea of social lead gen, if you will? I mean, is this something that's still being defined, or is it already sort of an accepted approach too?
I think it's definitely still being defined. I mean, I think the disruptive opportunity right now is the fact that if you want to do a social ad, you go to Twitter, or Facebook, or LinkedIn. So, and they're not making it inexpensive to do that. And I think, there's a lot of opportunity around different delivery mechanisms, because it really is one of the things we're doing is we're pushing, and I could go down a rabbit hole here, but we're pushing curation of content and of people out to the edges. So we're allowing the end users to be more involved in the process of, we're almost thinking about it as like a reverse auction or opt-in ad networks, where people are saying, yes, I'm interested in this particular thing, help me out by giving me, information to download or the best potential offer right now. And by doing that, I think that we're redefining what the social consumer is.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fascinating spin.
Yeah.